Have you finished flight school and you're going to start hitting the road looking for work? Well, stick around. Today we're diving into job interviews for general aviation, what operators are looking for, top tips to stand out, and the technical questions you'll be needing to be ready for, and the most common mistakes to make sure that you won't get employed. I'm going to discuss all this and more coming right up. So strap in and let's get into it.
Good morning, 3614, 95 Mallow 7 POB with altitude.
Coordinating, Halen, I'm running bank, tower, bank pressure rolling to 30 degrees. That's 30 degrees there. Send by star 9000, 1013, KFI 25.
G'day everyone and welcome to episode 180 of the Flight Training Australia podcast. The podcast all about flight training and flying around Australia and beyond. I'm your host, Trent Robinson. Thank you for joining me yet again. 180 episodes. This is getting insane, guys. Very excited. Only 20 more to go and 200. Pretty awesome indeed. Very exciting. Gosh, what a week again. So much going on. I swear to God. This weekend, I had all these plans to work on the house a bit, clean up my studio and set up a bunch of things for some YouTube videos. And you know what? I did barely anything. Played a bit of flight sim though. Jumped on getting the flight sim sorted out at home with my son. Flynn ready for his flying lessons, and we got the VR headset going. That is so much fun. We moved away from Flight Sim and X-Plane, ended up playing War Thunder. And if you haven't played that before, it's when I was a kid, well, teenager anyway, I used to play Microsoft Combat Flight Sim, and this is probably the nearest sort of thing to that. Flying all the old warbirds, building your way up through the aircraft ranks, and you know, normally when you play something like that, you just got to keep pulling back until the enemy appears in your screen. But with the VR, you just look up like you would, and there they are, and you can track them perfectly. And I tell you what, it was such an advantage, I think, over some of the other players, although they possibly had it too, I don't know. The only letdown there was trying to hit them. Got to work on that and, getting my angles right and shooting ahead of them enough so the bullets hit. But lots of fun. I don't know. Do you guys get into that sort of stuff much? It is very, very good, but it's good for the hand-eye coordination. Definitely. So he reckons he can skip the whole ab initio PPL stuff and just we'll go buy a Spitfire or something and get into it. So why not? Apart from the $3 million price tag, I guess, and then some. The annual Darwin 452 Squadron Tower Party is over for another year. If you've never been, a lot of good fun, a lot of good times. The Tower guys and gals put on a fantastic show. Jess and the team got everything organised. Huge barbecue, salads, rolls, everything you can think of, steaks, hamburgers, sausages, veggie stuff, everything you could possibly want, drinks and beers and spirits for sale. Wonderful evening. It's just a great way to get together with everybody from all the different operators and have a bit of fun, mesh in with the ATC team and go for a tour. Although that slightly got interrupted, unfortunately, by a couple of emergencies during the time frame, which is, it's always how it works, isn't it? But so a few of the tower tours got interrupted, but otherwise, everyone had a fantastic time and tours got going again a little bit later on. If you did miss out or if you are in Darwin, the team is only too happy to have you through the facility. It's quite easy to organise. If you are in Darwin and you'd like to do that, reach out to me and I'll let you know how to go about organising it. They're absolutely pro pilots coming through just to, again, make the link with air traffic control and pilots. Show you what they do and why they do things, and it just helps make everybody's jobs a little bit easier. So thanks again, Jess and everybody, for making that happen, and very much look forward to another one next year. Alrighty. So general aviation job interview preparation. Now, I've done a bunch of episodes on resume writing and cover letters and all that sort of stuff and how to prepare. It's one of the very first episodes I did, but I figured it's time for a bit of a revamp. And as always, I'll do the same but different, come at it at a slightly different angle. One of the things I think, before I go any further, is exactly as I just said, I have covered this before. So Everyone listening, if you are interested in today's topic, then I strongly suggest you go back and have a look at all the various topics that I have covered. And, you don't have to listen to all 179 of them, but there are heaps there that are of benefit and interest to you all. And they'll come up at various stages of your career and interest sake. So definitely have a look at that. If you go to flighttrainingaustralia.net, you can click on the top right corner. There's a little search icon thing, and you can just type in like jobs or something like that, and it will come up. Well, actually, see, I just did it live. Job. There you go. And it will give you some tips and things. I've got the episode 87, planning a career, job hunting. I've got episode 6, applying for your first job in aviation. Job prospects for older pilots, episode 31. There's a whole heap there. So just have a look through that. You can also search Spotify. Apple, pretty sure, does the same thing. The only problem with that is you'll get all other people's stuff. But mine comes up reasonably well. I try and put keywords in there so that they are searchable. But the main website for all the podcasts episodes that I've done is flighttrainingaustralia.net. That link, of course, is in the episode notes in the description there, and you can click on that and go back and listen to other ones. And the moral of the story of what I'm trying to get at there is taking some effort to prepare for a job. All right. There's a lot of people that think I've finished flight school and here I am. Where's my job? Now, that's not everybody. I get it. But do some effort. It's easy to ask me, hey, Trent, what episodes should I listen to? But look, I'm busy. I've gone and done all the hard work for you. Show some initiative and get in there. Because when people ask me that, that's the first thought that I have. And whether that's a question that you're going to ask an employer, it's just going to be a different version of it, but they're going to get exactly the same impression. All right. So part of being ready to get a job is having some initiative and, digging out some information yourself. Yes, it's easy to just ask me, but, make some effort and try and find out the details for yourself. Now, before we go any further, there's one thing we need to get very, very clear, and that is the whole purpose of this job interview. Now, I'll ask a question. Are you going to get a job for yourself? And you'll go, well, yeah, of course. But if you said that, you're actually wrong. Now, stick with me. Remember, the purpose of a job interview is to fill a vacancy. Now, that vacancy exists because the employer has a need. It has a requirement. They have a job, contract, aeroplane to fly, reception desk to stage, mount, and attend to, aircraft to be maintained, whatever the role is. All right. But they have a need. So the first thing you've got to remember is this is not about you, even though it's very, very personal. It's very, very important. And I get all that, but it's not about you. It's about showing how you can fill that need, how you can help the company meet its obligations. They've got a contract. They need several pilots of so many hours and so many different qualifications. Hey, I meet those requirements. I can help you. And if you go into the whole job interview process with that attitude, it will help you greatly. All right. So remember, those flying hours and experiences is what you're going for. That's why you want the job. That comes by default. The whole point of flying an airplane is, guess what? You're going to get hours. It happens automatically. You don't have to worry about that. Right? Your job is to fill their need. So focus on how you can help them achieve their mission safely and effectively, and it will go a long way to putting at the top of their list. So, like I said, let's go through some top tips. I'm not going to go into resume writing and all that. I've well and truly covered that several times. All right, but when you are going around to drop off your applications, dress smart and casual. That's a neat shirt, polo, trousers, dress, whatever, but don't show up in pilot uniform. Okay? Not required. Just like a business interview, same sort of attire, nothing too casual, no shorts, no sneakers, no jeans. All right, get to know your company that you're going for. As I've said, start a little cheat sheet, write out all the contacts that you make, write down their names. Don't rely on remembering them because you won't a week or 2 days later. Okay, who you get to speak to, what roles they hold, all this information about their fleet, the aircraft they operate, kind of stuff they do, what sort of jobs they fly to, contracts and stuff. All that information is going to become useful when the email comes through or the phone rings and a job opportunity comes up and you get a chance for an interview. So definitely get to know that. All right, flexibility. Some people cannot be flexible, and I understand that. And some operators, if they have the luxury to, they also understand that. But it will make your life harder. All right. So if you're able to be adaptable to changing conditions, the simple fact is that general aviation is very dynamic. Rosters come out, but things happen, things change. Job opportunity or, flights come up last minute, and there can be a lot of last minute accommodating. Now, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, and it always gets shared around wherever possible, but this is the role. You're going to be working nights. You're going to be working weekends. Okay, so you need to be prepared for that. You can't start picking and choosing, go, I don't want to do that. But remember, you wanted the hours. You're there for the experience. Okay, so make sure that you're available for that. Always want to be demonstrating a good safety mindset. You're not someone that's going to just cut corners and be as respectful as you can for the company. Be mindful of what you say, especially being lured into bagging out other operators in interviews. One of the worst possible things you can do. Probably should add that to the end of how to definitely make sure you're not going to get a job. All right. People have come to an interview and started bagging out their previous employer. Well, whether they agree with you or not, you've just said, well, what are you going to do about us when you leave or whilst you're here? All right. It's just shown a personality trait that you probably just talked yourself out of a job. So remember that. All right. Now, one of the questions that was asked a couple of weeks ago when I asked you all what would you like to know was what sort of questions get asked in job interviews. Now, technical questions are one of those. All right. So there's obviously all this sort of personality stuff, which I'll touch on in a minute, but technical questions. Now, what does technical mean? Well, nothing too technical, funnily enough. It just simply means questions about aircraft you've flown or the aircraft that the operator operates. Now, they're never asking you, intimate details, especially if you're not rated or flown it before, but just stuff that you should know. Very easily found in the front part of the POH or just a quick Wikipedia, Google even. All right. So things like the 206 or 210. All right. So one of the most common aircraft that you're going to start flying. So the 210 is retractable undercarriage. You'll have retractable undercarriage design features. So how would you handle a gear emergency? How would you do a manual gear extension? What are the processes you go through? Now, this could be a specific 210 thing. Maybe you haven't flown a 210, but you've flown other manual gear aircraft, and they'll all follow a similar theme. And the employer, or the interviewer rather, would factor that in as to whether you have had experience on that or not. Right. 206, just recently an ATSB report has come out about the emergency exit on the 206 with the flaps being down. So if you don't monitor the ATSB reports when they come out, one of the most easiest things you can do is follow them on Instagram or Facebook, and they will post their reports out every week or so, just either little animated videos on all the findings and things, or it's just a quick written up report. And I'm going to be covering a few of those very, very soon. But the 206 emergency exit, when the flaps are down, you can't actually open the back door easily. There is a way to do it, but it's not ideal. So that's being addressed, and this is directly related to an aircraft that you could possibly fly. So make yourself informed on that. If you're aware of that ATSB report and the issues there, even if you haven't flown it, that impresses people. All right. If you're looking for a turbine job, well, then basic questions around ITT and torque limits and, temperature or torque limitations. If you're going to fly the Caravan, you turn the battery on and a loud beeping noise happens. What is it? Some basic speeds, aircraft that have typical weight and balance, loading issues, emergency drills, just an engine fire on startup, alternator failure. A lot of these things get touched on very, very briefly or basically in flight school, but I find are very poorly understood and thought through. So make sure you have a think about those sort of things. Read through the procedure in the manual and then ask yourself, what would I do? How would I handle it? What would it take for things to develop before I took the next step? And that will help you with those sort of questions. All right, so remember you're endorsed and rated to fly those aircraft, even though it might have been a little while ago, but the bare basics should be. Most interviewers have flown the same or similar aircraft to you at some stage, so they will know something about it. We're not getting into the deepest, darkest corner of the POH. It's just nice, simple answers. They're just looking for practical working knowledge, not a recital of the POH. All right. So other than some technical questions, they're obviously going to ask about you. Remember, they're getting 200, 300, 400 resumes. And this is genuine, okay? People ask me all the time, is it really competitive up here in Darwin? And I go, well, from the number of resumes that arrive, yes. But the quality of the resumes, no. All right. So the way to make yourself stand out is obviously how your resume is written and cover letter if applicable. But then when you get the opportunity to interview, this is where you get to tell them about who you are. Because ultimately, remember, everyone is virtually the same. You're all around the 200 plus hour mark. You've got manual propeller retrack. You've all flown the similar sort of airplanes. There's not much you can do qualification wise to make yourself stand out. And another 10 hours here or 5 hours on that there isn't going to make the difference. All right. It's going to come down to who are you? How are you going to slot into the company? Are you going to integrate well? Are you going to mix with everybody? Are you going to be a good team player? All right. So tell us a bit about yourself. What got you into flying? Funnily enough, it's not all that easy to talk about yourself in that way. It can feel a bit awkward, uncomfortable. So these are all very simple questions that you can be prepared for and practice with your family, with your friends, with fellow students, whatever, and work on this. Why do you want to work at X company? What do you know about our company and our operations? Right? Just some really simple questions there. All right. And then you might get into some other sort of technical questions about, how you'd calculate your fuel for a typical flight of 2 hours long. Just basic fuel planning knowledge. How, can you use the weight and balance in Oz Runways or AvPlan on your iPad? The answer's no, by the way, unless it's a properly certified version, but that's a whole nother discussion. What sort of things would affect the takeoff distance for a 210? Now, that's got nothing to do with the 210, is it? It's just a standard takeoff sort of question. You should know all the things that are going to affect a takeoff. All right. What would you do if you had an electrical failure? How do you interact with passengers on a scenic flight or charter? What if you had a difficult passenger? How would you sort that out? These are things that you may not necessarily have experienced or had much exposure to, but this is what you're applying to do, remember. So probably, really good to think about. What do you think makes a good pilot? That's a tough one, isn't it? You've got to really think about that. Don't want to be too sucky and, go over the top, but you don't want to undercook it either. So really worthwhile thinking about these sort of things. How are you going to handle the situation if you're asked to go flying when you think it's unsafe? Again, these things can come up quite often depending on who you are and where you are and the team around you. We've got wet season coming up soon. It's end of August, beginning of October. Happy October, everybody. And September, sorry. 1 month ahead. October's build-up time. September's hopefully going to hang nice and dry still and cool. I still want to go do some camping. But yeah, you really need to think about that sort of stuff and how you're going to handle things, where your personal limits are as to where you're going to feel uncomfortable and start to push back or ask questions. Right. And then ones that can sort of also be a bit challenging is like, where do you see yourself in the next 2 to 3 years? What sort of endorsements would you like to get? Ones to think about. Things to avoid saying. I just want to build some hours and move on. Now, you might go, well, God, who would say that? But believe me, in not such simple language, many people say that. All right, they might say it in a bit more of a lengthy, wordy version, but that's what they're saying. I'm just here until I get into the airlines, all that sort of stuff. Complaining about previous employers. Oh, I did have it in my notes here. So all those sort of things are definitely stuff you don't want to be saying. But again, things about me. What can I get out of this? When will I get that? All right. Remember, now's not the time for those sort of questions. They will evolve over time. You'll start to see how everyone goes. And look, trust me, from sitting back and watching the majority of operators that I'm involved with at Darwin up here, everyone gets the opportunity, generally speaking, to move on just fine, as long as you're performing and you're at the standard. If you feel like you might be getting overlooked, then that's absolutely not a problem to just say, hey, I sort of feel like I might be being overlooked there. Is there an issue? Is there something I can be working on, something I can be doing better at? And, just break the ice and get the conversation going and find out. Some people can be unintentionally difficult to work with and cause issues. Might cause friction amongst management, amongst other pilots. There's no one wants anybody to do anything inappropriate or dodgy. But some people can just be completely inflexible and not practical about how can we get the job done safely and effectively. Again, remember why you're there. The company has passengers, freight, etc. that needs moving. So how can we do it? Right? Sometimes something might just come up right at the end of the day. All right. Now we all want to go home, but if we've got duty time left and all that, well, we'll get a shorter day somewhere else. So if you can be the one that puts the hand up, well then, that's the team player attitude and you'll get rewards later, be it multi-turbine upgrades or, good days off or when the next opportunity comes, holidays and that sort of stuff. So it usually does all work out. Anything to do with overconfidence as well, the cockiness, all for being confident. But be careful that you're not protruding a cocky attitude that can be seen as a cowboy attitude or cowgirl attitude and a dangerous attitude. Definitely not interested in that. All right. So there's some ideas and tips to hopefully get you going. As I said, I've covered similar things in a couple of other episodes there. So go through those. I will list them in the episode notes just to help you find them. See, there you go. I did it anyway. But yeah, use that search function. There's lots of great info out there. 180 episodes, people. I don't even know how many minutes worth of wisdom is there, but it's a fair bit. So go get into that. If you are finding it useful, finding it helpful, and you'd like to support the podcast and support the work I'm doing, you can jump onto Patreon. I'd love to have you there. There's exclusive membership info and posts that go up every now and then. I'm starting to get back into that because I'm making the time for it again. And things you don't see on the other socials, special behind the scenes things and stuff that are going to start showing up. And also a little chat group there that you can get exclusive access to me as well, and much more prompt responses. Speaking of which, I've sort of mentioned it before that socials are getting very, very busy. with more and more followers, and it is possible, which has happened, that I may miss a message. I get all manner of notifications between Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok and everything else, and it sometimes goes missing, and I don't notice it, or I don't see it, or I see it when I can't do anything about it, and then I don't manage it very well and get back to it. So if you have a genuine question or flight training inquiry, please send it through on email, info@trentrobinsonaviation.com.au, and that way at least it will be in one spot that I can find it. Often I get lost as to I see it and then try to work out where it is. So please fire that through. As far as training goes, some of you are going, hey, I'm in Darwin, love to do a 210 check with you. And I'm like, yeah, not for months. I can't do short notice stuff. I'm not able to accommodate that, unfortunately. I'm just so heavily booked right now. Pretty much there's a little bit through December, and then otherwise January, February, March is almost full with multiple instrument ratings. So you need to be looking at next year if you want to do something. If it's short term, we can do that. I'll have some GA transition courses available, and full-time longer stuff like instrument ratings, instructor training, all that sort of stuff. That will have to fit around the other bits and pieces that I do. So I have obligations to other operators as well, to fit in all their training needs. So things are starting to get a little bit more hectic. Just got to be a bit more planned, but you do need to think a bit longer term. So just get in touch. Let me know what you're thinking. I'll let you know what I can do, and we can go from there. All right, that's enough for me yapping on. You guys have a fantastic week. Stay safe. And as always, blue skies, and remember the golden rule. Aviate, navigate, communicate. See ya.